Good morning. It is Monday, October 25th, and today we're talking about scary things because it's Halloween this week. And the scary thing we're going to talk about today is budgeting. Why is budgeting scary? Budgeting is scary because if you've never done it before, it can feel completely overwhelming. Budgeting is scary because we have our entire culture telling us debt is bad and you're doing it wrong and you spend on stuff you shouldn't spend and all this judgy. Budgeting is scary because it requires us to take a good, hard look at our numbers and make some real choices and some real decisions. And if we don't feel empowered in that in the first place, then it is not going to feel good at all. So on this scary Halloween week, we are talking about budgeting and how it's scary. My name is Michelle Marquardt DeVoe. Welcome. I'm the owner of Faith Culture Kiss and the founder of the Speakeasy Cooperative, where we do this kind of stuff almost every day in almost every program, teaching you how to manage your money and your mindset and a lot of other things in order to run the business that you want to run and become the person you want to be. If you are here, I see a couple people watching already. Tell me where you're from. And of course, with the eCam, if I won't be able to see your name unless you sign up with the eCam and tell eCam who you are. So drop some comments for me. Let me know that you're here. Let me know where you're tuning in from. And if you want to put in your number one thing that makes you hesitant to budgeting, that would be amazing. And we'll start talking through that as I go through. Then we'll do the questions. And then, of course, I'll be there on the flip side if I don't catch any comments in the actual live stream. Okay, welcome. Let's do this thing. Okay, so how many people honestly have never budgeted before? Even if you have bookkeeping, have you not budgeted? Budgeting and bookkeeping go hand in hand. They are friends, but they are not the same thing. Much like cash flow and budgeting and bookkeeping, they're all friends. They're all related, even really close friends, but they're not the same thing, and they serve different purposes in our lives and in our business. So bookkeeping, it serves us in terms of, yes, knowing where money is going in and going out in historical understanding. So the bookkeeping tells me last month, the month before, over time, even, it could be like last minute, right? If you just put it in, but it gives you a historical perspective of what money is doing. That is bookkeeping. And we use bookkeeping in order to categorize the income and the expenses that we have. Elizabeth, you're already signed up for eCam because I can see that it's your name saying, Elizabeth, how do you sign up for eCam? I think there's like a little link in the original live announcement that says, give us your name here or something like that for anyone in the future. You know what? I'm going to go ahead. Let me see if I can do this. I've done this before. Oh, it's not giving me the option to add your eCam sign up thing. So just let me know who you are. So that's bookkeeping, right? Bookkeeping gives us information about historical, what has happened in the past, where it's coming and going. It also helps us categorize for our taxes. And this is going to be true in any nation that has a tax system where you have to categorize your taxes. In some nations, you do not actually categorize your taxes because they just say, this is how much. So we have a good friend of mine, actually, one of our SECO members wrote me and responded to this email that I sent last week. And she's like, this is so interesting because this does not apply in my nation at all because of the way that we use money. So sometimes you're just going to get 25% off of your total revenue, which requires way more budgeting, but may not require the same amount of bookkeeping. So if you are in a place where you can claim expenses, you want bookkeeping. Now, cash flow is the data that we gather around what our money is doing coming in and out in real time. Sometimes it's called, you can look at a balance sheet minute by minute to see cash flow. Balance sheet is not cash flow. Right? But that cash flow is like literally, how is it moving? And this is the most important part of business ownership. Okay. Y'all, money needs to move. It needs to move. And we have a zeitgeist that you have to save. And I love saving. I think saving is a perfect, wonderful, fabulous idea when it's in your budget and you have a reason to save. Do not save just to save. Save with a reason. That will help you to budget. And budgeting is when we are making decisions about what our money is going to do in the future, near future, and the distant future. We can make projected budgets, meaning what do I think this event is going to cost me? What do I think this event is going to bring in, for example? You can do forecasting with a budget where you're like, I'm going to build a new revenue stream. What are those things that I need to invest in? What are the capital expenses I'm going to need? And then the recurring expenses, and what do I think I might want to sell those things for? And then you can do just a very basic overall annual budget for the business where you're really zooming out 30,000 feet and you're saying, I know I want to spend about 8% on my total revenue on marketing. I know I want to spend about 30% on personnel. I know I want to spend, X amount on profit and building up capital. And I know that I have about 12% in expenses, right? So budgeting is this wonderful tool that we get in order to help us manage the decisions that we have around money so that we get what we want. And I think sometimes budget is that thing that we get a little bit scared about because we think it's going to tell us that we're not allowed to do something. It's going to put a big fat no in front of us. And what I want you to do is think of it like putting a big fat yes in front of you, but not only a yes, but a yes, and here's when. You might not like the when. You might realize it can take a little bit longer, or maybe the when is next year, not this year, or something like that. But budgeting is a big fat yes, not a big fat no. So you got a comment. This is Shannon. Let's see. Love that you're doing this topic today. This is Shannon. Shannon's saying, hey, I love that you're doing this topic today. This morning, I just got an email from the owner of the small gym I belong to pulling out the old, if you wouldn't buy the lattes, you wouldn't be able to invest your own health trope. It was meant with the best of intentions, but nah, bro. Yeah, so we're going to unpack a little bit of that today. I got to tell you, honey, it ain't lattes and it ain't avocado toast that's ruining your budget. It's your decision making. That's it. And you have complete power over your money. You want to know what the lie is? The lie is that you have learned helplessness around your money, that you don't have control over your money, that you don't have control over how much money you're going to make, and that you don't have control over how the money is going to be spent. Let me tell you right now, that's the lie. You are not helpless when it comes to money. Okay, so this is definitely for beginners. So if you have experience with budgeting, please go ahead and put like all of your questions and everything. But I just want to clarify that we're starting at the bare bones where people are like, this is scary. I don't know what to do. And I'm afraid I'm going to do it wrong. Okay. And I take a very gentle approach to beginning budgeting because I want people to kind of get in the habit of asking questions rather than doing actions, because the questions are what's going to lead you to the actions, right? Really being good with money is about learning what questions to ask and when to ask them, and then using the data, the spreadsheets and all of this to make decisions. And that's ultimately what an accountant does, right? They look at the money and they make informed, educated decisions based on what they see in terms of cash flow, like we talked about a few minutes ago, and in terms of bookkeeping. What money are we spending on what categories? So if you've never made a budget before and the thought of it brings up shame and worry, you're not alone. All right. And that's where we're starting from. The other caveat I need to just tell y'all before we jump in is that I do not believe in the you need to spend less camp. I don't. I believe in the you need to make more money camp. Okay. Because at the end of the day, you can cut as many expenses as you can, and you're still not going to have enough if you don't figure out ways to bring in more income. And that's just the way of the world right now. So I'm super sorry, but that's how it goes. I also like to call bullshit on the whole debt is bad conversation. I think there's a big difference between consumer debt and leverageable debt. And I want people, especially business owners, micro and nano business owners, to understand those differences, because you're often going to be a sole proprietorship or a single member LLC where your business debt is your personal debt, but it's not necessarily consumer debt. And so I want to get real clear that I don't believe that all debt is bad at all. And to me, leverageable debt is the kind of debt where you can, again, ask questions and make decisions about that debt. If you are in a consumer debt spiral, then in your budget, there will be ways to get yourself out of that spiral, right? And consumer debt is just that kind of stuff that you spend money on that you don't really get a return on investment for other than your momentary pleasures, right? Which is, again, fine if you want to do that. We just definitely don't want to get to a place where we can't dig ourselves out of that. If you need to go into consumer debt to have your basic needs met on a monthly basis, there's one of two things happening. Either some of the decisions you're making could be repurposed into other decisions. Again, I did not say they were bad decisions. I just said they need to be looked at, or you're literally not making enough money. And that is solved in another way. It's not by budgeting yourself into freedom. Okay. I know that that is against what some of the bigwigs out there say, but I work with these people on a daily basis, and I don't think shaming you into thinking that you make dumb decisions and that you're an idiot about your money is a good way to teach you how to be a business owner. So I don't do that. I believe that merging of life, a good life, with decision makings that reflect our financial situation, that is what good budgeting is. Okay, so let's jump in. 3 steps, 3 first steps toward where's my budgeting? There's my thing. I'm going to put my budget thing back on. To boldly budget where you've not budgeted before. Okay, so your first step, I want you to learn consistently. Go ahead, get out some Post-its that you can put on your computer or wherever you choose to look at your money. You can even have it on a little paper that you carry around with you. And I want you to always ask 3 questions whenever money is happening. So that's whenever you're going to spend something or whenever you're going to bring in money. I just want you to consistently get, may or may not be wearing out the heart button right now. Thank you, Shannon. I want you to learn these 3 questions. How much money is coming in? I want you to know every month how much money comes in. When does more money come in? When does less money come in? What kinds of things bring you money? When does that happen? So how much money is coming in? The second question I want you to ask is how much money is going out? Just expenses. Again, very beginner, but you'd be surprised how few people actually take the time to think about these things while the money is flowing, right? And that's what money does. Again, it flows. It's not supposed to stay stagnant. We all know what happens with stagnant water. It goes nasty and gets bugs and grossness and viruses and all of these kinds of things. We want the money to flow. So how much money is coming in? How much money is going out? And when are these ins and outs happening, right? So we're just starting to get some information oh, it seems like every Christmas or every holiday season or every high holidays, I bring in a little bit more money because maybe I'm singing or maybe I'm helping people sing and I have a lot of extra sessions that I'm giving. Oh, in the summer, revenue goes down because people are taking off, right? Oh, it looks like my revenue is inconsistent because I only do drop-ins. So I need to consider my budget and have something called a flexible budget, right? Yes, Sarah, great. The info is neither good nor bad. It's just info. It's just data. Absolutely. And it is neutral. So this is all just information. How you're going to gather this information is in real time. You're going to just start today doing it. And then you're going to start looking at historical information. And again, historical information, even though it has to do with bookkeeping, it's going to give you some insights into how you behave with money. You're just going to learn about yourself. This is where you're going to want to vomit. Okay? But I really want you to pick apart why you want to vomit. And most of the time, it's because you have some story in your head based on should spending. Should spending is, I should buy this. I should not buy that. I shouldn't be. This is the thing Shannon was talking about with the lattes, right? I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't spend so much on shoes. I shouldn't spend so much at Starbucks. I shouldn't spend so much on avocado toast, like all these things. No. That's not the issue at all. You spend your money, again, you can spend your damn money on whatever you want to do. It's your money. You earned it. Spend it. The difference is here is you're just trying to see what you're happy with, like what makes sense for you for your goals. And you know what? 1 month, you might be like, I'm going to cut out this. I'm going to lower the Starbucks budget just a little bit because I want to buy a new keyboard. I mean, a keyboard is thousands of dollars. I can move my Starbucks budget to a keyboard because that's how big my Starbucks budget is. But we just want to kind of figure out where is the value that I'm placing on where this money is going. Does it mean enough to me that I want to spend money on it? And you know what? It's okay if your avocado toast means that much to you to spend money on it. Buy avocados twice a week, friends. Let's do it, right? I love that you budget for SBs. Oh yeah, it's a line item, girl. Starbucks. Separate line. It's not even under the food budget. It's its own line item. So, okay. So you're going to go over the past few months. If you want to get really fancy and you're ready to like hit the ground running, as Alice Merton would sing, I want you to take out 12 months or at least from January 2021. And you're going to print them out. I want you to print them out. Don't just look at them on a paper because the digital wallet is part of the problem of budgeting. It's hard to really imagine what's happening with your money when you're only looking at it on a screen and it's all fake, when you don't have cash in your hand, right? So we want to have as many tangible opportunities right now for our brains to absorb things. And I want you to make some notes on there. I want you to determine when and how income hits your bank account. Does it go through Stripe and then go? Does it hang out in Stripe for 30 days or 40 days and then come into your bank account at once a month? Determine which expenses are fixed and which are regular. So a fixed expense is something that you're like a regular monthly expense, like your Seco membership, right? That's a fixed expense. And it's recurring. And then you're going to have those are monthly, and then annual, you're going to have, maybe an annual subscription to the Nats or to Pava or to Acuity or to Canva or some other software, right? Yeah. Oh, my best friend is here, Sarah Guilford, and she is saying, hey, girls' school was canceled, so we went to Starbucks. Every cent worth it every time. That's right. Because it's in the budget. Okay, then what I want you to do next is I want you to determine which expenses are irregular, or what we could call incidentals. Friends, all of us have incidentals. You're supposed to have incidentals. That's your fun money, right? The thing is, know how much you're going to spend on incidentals every month, and then you can do whatever you want with it. And if you want to budget $2,000 in incidentals, if you have that to budget and you just want $2,000 of play money, do that. Right? $300? Do that. $50? Do that. I don't care how much it is, just as long as it lines up with your revenue. Because you cannot spend more than you have. And that's why budgeting is important. It gives you that information about like, I'd really like this to be a $2,000 budget line item, but I'm only making $3,000 and I really do need to pay these other expenses. So the step is simple for you. All of this looking and noticing is so that you can make friends looking at numbers. It's to learn to budget without panicking. That again, budgeting is neutral. All you're doing with this step is becoming aware. There's no judgments and there's no decisions being made. I don't want you to make any decisions right now. You're just noticing. Step 2. Okay, so step 1 was what? Learn to consistently ask how much is coming in, how much is going out, when is it coming in and out? Observing patterns, right? Step 2 is record and observe past data. And this is going to be like bookkeeping light, okay? Because technically bookkeeping also adds the categorization about like what category the money is being spent in, like marketing or continuing education or professional development or, COGS, which cost of doing, cost of goods, meaning like my sheet music or personnel, right? But we're going to do kind of just some spreadsheeting right here. We're going to eventually want to get it into a table. But for now, again, if you're brand new, all I want you to do is make lists. I just want you to make lists. So you're going to look over those data. You can break it up by month. And you can say, okay, in January, what was all the income I made? And you're going to add it up and total it. Just a list with the number and a total. The same for the recurring monthly expenses. Okay, here are all my monthly expenses for January. How much were they? What was the total? And then and then all the incidentals. Here's all the extra stuff I wasn't planning on. Line it up, total. And then you're just going to compare which numbers are bigger, because if the expenses numbers are bigger than the income numbers, that's when you know some decisions have to be made, right? Now, if you use a credit card, if you're like me, I use a credit card as my expense account. So what I do is I pay for everything that I possibly can, that I'm allowed to pay for in my business on my business credit card. And that helps me keep it all in one location. There's only a couple things that I pay with my checking account, and then I just pay it off every month. So that's the trick. If you're going to use a credit card, you want to keep zero balance. So if you understand how credit works, what it is you pay for something and then you have kind of like 30 days to borrow that money without interest, right? You have 30 days that you don't have to pay anything extra. And then when it comes, Tegan is saying flight points, baby. Absolutely. I have, someone asked me the other day which credit cards I prefer. And I do go ahead and I pay for a high-end credit card because of the flexibility of the points, because of kind of the other perks that come with it as a business owner. So I do have a Chase Inc. Reserve card. I think that's it. Hold on. Yes, business preferred Inc. card. Should I show you? No, I'm just kidding. And then for our personal budget, we do a Sapphire Reserve card. And that's just because, we do travel enough. You can get the money back of the annual fees on that. The annual fees are hefty, but with the perks that you get back, it pays for itself. So it's like not a big deal. The trick with the points is you actually have to use them, friends. If you don't use the points, then it's not worth it to do that. You just use your credit, your cash or your checking account. Anyway, so Amazon points, I'll bet that's good. I love it. My mom has a Disney credit card. And so like when we're getting ready, we're going to fix to go to Disneyland pretty soon here. What we do is we just like always use the Disney, and then we get a bunch of points and get like, I don't know, free blue milk in Star Wars land or something. It's like fun. Anyway, I know Shannon's got a Costco MasterCard, gives cash back, thousands back every year. Yeah. And, you can learn more about that. Google like the best credit cards in the United States kind of thing. Cause again, that's a very Western kind of a, more credit-based capital society kind of thing. So, hey, Shannon. Yeah, REI card. You get good stuff. Y'all, Shannon over here, Shannon Herrick, I just want you to know we went to high school together. This woman is a farmer, a homesteader. She can make anything. She like really could, let me just say, zombie apocalypse, I'm going to Shannon's. So anyway, let's get back to the list. You want all that income. You want the monthly recurring expenses. That's the ones are going to happen. And then your monthly incidentals, that's the ones you're not positive, but they happen occasionally, every other month, whatever. Maybe travel would be under incidentals. And then for your really fancy pants people, I want you to pay attention to the annual expenses. So those would be your annual payments that you make for things. And we're going to total those up too. Once you've made the list, you'll be able to subtract the expenses from the income and know if you're making enough to cover your expenses, if you need to make more money, or if you need to spend differently. And as you observe this recorded data, you're going to really see patterns. And I especially want you to observe patterns in your incidentals, because what we're going to do is we're going to actually turn those incidentals that are regular incidentals into a line item in the budget. Because if you're going to spend the money and you're spending it already, let's just go ahead and plan to spend the money on it, instead of getting all, I shouldn't spend my money on this, right? And because it's an incidental, it's a low risk no. If you need to find money from somewhere else, is where we're going to do it in the next step, which is decide ahead of time where the money goes. So you're going to notice stuff like, oh, on Tuesdays, I always wind up going to Starbucks because I drop the kids off at school. And then I am on my way to my music building. So I just happen to do that. Or maybe you notice, you have your Apple Music subscription that you thought you forgot that you bought, right? Or maybe you realize that at the beginning of the month, that's when the auto tuition payments or your auto payments from your clients start to come in. Maybe you just notice that you really like shoes. And about every other month, you're buying about $200 worth of shoes. Maybe you start to realize, and you can do this again, you're going to do this for your personal and you're going to do it for your business. You need it for your personal to know how much you're going to pay yourself in a salary. You need it for your business so you know how much your business needs to make to run the business. So they're two different budgets. Yeah. You're just going to notice these things. These patterns are what you're going to use to build your budget. Don't try to build a budget on shit you don't do. That is very confusing, by the way. And it doesn't make any sense. Because if you're already behaving in certain ways, to ask yourself to not only learn how to budget and then also completely change your financial behavior in 1 month is very foolish, and it will just leave you to a place where you do not feel empowered. You do not feel like you have the tools and the ability to budget. You're going to be mad at yourself, and then you're going to just throw your hands up in the air. Build your budget based on your spending habits. And I can guarantee you, once you start seeing your spending habits, you're going to make a decision about what's important and what's not. And you're going to be like, okay, well, I'm not going to spend my money on that thing anymore, and I'm not going to do it. So step 3. And this is the gold. Decide ahead of time where the money gets to go. That's all a budget is. It's deciding ahead of time where your money gets to go. Budgets are estimates. They're guesses, educated guesses, but they're guesses. They're not supposed to be penny by penny. Again, that's what the bookkeeping is for. The bookkeeping is the penny by penny. The budget is the estimate. You can make educated guesses based on your past months and the patterns you observed. Which expenses do you expect to happen every month now? Because they're fixed. Which ones do you expect to happen every month because they're regular incidentals? Why don't we go ahead and make them a fixed line item? And just in case you're not sure, line item literally just means, that list. It means that you wrote it separately on the list and you didn't nestle it into something else. So the example earlier about Starbucks being a line item, it means that you're extremely intentionally having money just for that thing. So some people might put food in their budget, but under food, they are like, well, that's my eating out. That's every time I get a Starbucks, and that's my groceries. I'm all for as many line. If I want it in my life, it gets a line. Life equals line. So if I know I'm eating out, that's a line item. If I know that I like going to the movies, that's a line item. If I know I'm going to Starbucks, that's a line item. And line item just literally means a line on the budget, right? In the spreadsheet or wherever. So thanks, Elizabeth. Elizabeth is being encouraging. This is such a good review. Good. I hope it's helping. And literally, y'all, do this in a spreadsheet first. Don't jump to bookkeeping, because, by the way, bookkeeping, again, it's different than budgeting. You can use a budgeting software. I would start on a spreadsheet. YNAB is great. Mint is great. There's tons. I think Dave Ramsey has one, but I don't really agree with his overall kind of shaminess about debt and about budgeting. But I know that his tool is a good tool. Remember, your bookkeeping software is different than a budgeting software, because bookkeeping is historical. Budgeting is guessing ahead of time. Yeah. So using this past data, make some decisions about where your money is going to be spent in future months. And when I say your money, I mean the real money that's going to come in. You can totally use a paper and pencil for this. Remember, you're just starting out. I mean, if you can manage a budgeting spreadsheet because you know how to do that, yes. Make it about being accessible to you. Again, this is beginning budgets, right? Make however you choose to track your money now, make it so that it feels comfortable and accessible to you. You're not going to be the same budgeting person in a year. Don't try to be your 5-year from now budgeting person today. You don't even have enough data around that to do that today, right? Baby steps to budgeting. Sarah's saying she takes vacay. Yep. I love using the points for the vacay. All right. If you read my blog, I'm going to there's a picture in there of like one of my very first budgets. It's so bad. It's the worst budget ever. But that's why I want to show it to you, because you know what? That worst budget that I made, that totally like not very helpful budget, was not helpful in terms of the money part, but it was extremely helpful in getting me started and getting me comfortable and being like, that's what I did wrong. That's what I need to do differently. So please do anything. Action brings clarity. There's so many things missing. You go look at that. So let's just talk about the 3 things again. I'm going to review that. Step 1 is learn to ask the 3 questions always, always, always. So the 3 questions are: how much is coming in? How much is going out? When are the ins and outs happening? Riding the wave, flow. It's all about flow. We want it to come in and we want it to go out. And again, even in your savings accounts, if you have those savings accounts is so that it will flow out later. Save for some other thing. You can be having retirement is essentially like that, right? Like where you're saving and saving and saving with the intention of the outflow later, right? Saving money just to hoard money is scarcity mindset. Sorry, but it is. Saving money for a rainy day, well, decide what you're going to do on that rainy day. Someday I'm going to use this money XYZ. The other reason why you have to intend to spend savings is you won't know how much to save. Because if you, again, have not figured out how much money you're going to spend on whatever, how can you save up enough for it, right? All right. Step number 1, asking the questions: how much in, how much out, when. Step number 2, record and observe past data. So you're printing out your bank statements, you're printing out your credit card statements, and you're seeing, what am I spending money on and when? How much money is coming in, just observing how much of it is regular. You can use highlighters like in How to Run and in How to Run Accelerator. I give an exercise where we do this with highlighters so that every kind of expense has a different highlighter color, that kind of thing. And then number 3, now we get to start deciding ahead of time where the money gets to go. And that essentially is your first baby budget. Okay. So some kind of practice-oriented things here. Way back in the day, there was a system of budgeting called envelope budgeting. And what I want you to do is I want you to imagine that on your payday or whenever you get paid, you'd go to the bank and you would cash your check, right? So you get your paper check, take it to the bank, and if it was for, say, $500, you would literally get $500 in bills in your hand. And what people would do is they would take the $500 and they would go home and they'd have envelopes. And the envelope would say like rent and food and clothing and I don't know, lots of other things, whatever. And each envelope was like a line item, right? So with that $500, they would take a little bit of that money and they would put it in the rent envelope, and then they put it in the food envelope, and they put it in the clothing envelope, and they put it in the whatever I want to do envelope, right? Or the utilities envelope, whatever envelope. And they would essentially have that envelope when they would go to the grocery, or that envelope when they went to the landlord. And that would be making sure that they had enough in every envelope. And if something came up, let's say groceries were a little more expensive because of, I don't know, a global pandemic or something in 1911 or 1919. I don't even remember anymore. It's all a blur. So maybe groceries a little more expensive. They would say, oh, I got to take some money. I have to take some cash out of the clothing envelope and put it in to the grocery envelope, as I'm not going to have anything. And what was really, really, really great about an envelope system, and by the way, you can do an envelope system now if you want. No one is stopping you from holding cold hard cash in your hand. Okay. What's great about the envelope budget is that you see how much you have. It is a tangible physical thing. And then you see how much has to go in every envelope. And then you're done. Because you can't like magically create more cash unless you literally go and create more cash until next payday or whatever. Maybe you do something extra. You have more cash. You can put in more line items, or you can add envelopes. So what these things like YNAB and Mint and like these budgeting softwares, what they're trying to do is they're like digital envelope systems. So they're just using the digital numbers. You know, you plug in the number on your cat typing. You plug in the number, and that's like you saying, okay, I know I got all this cash, digital cash, and I'm going to divide it into all these envelopes. So that's how I want you to kind of imagine your budget is, what if you got that wad of cash every month? How would you divide it into what envelopes? And then if one of the envelopes ran out, where would you, knowing that you had that fixed expense, for example, is it an envelope you need to put money back in? Or is it one of those incidental line items that it's fine, it's done, just wait till next month, right? If you start thinking of it much more tangibly than the way that this device and this device tries to get us to think about money, this will be very helpful to you. Because one of the hardest parts about budgeting is that it's, in today's day and age, it is so intangible. It is very easy to put down a piece of plastic and be like, well, there's the money, right? So what we want to do is we want to start just being intentional around that. Okay. I think that that is enough information for one day in terms of beginning budgeting. So I would love any questions, any comments. What did you learn today? What are some takeaways that you've had for today? And then some questions. So let's get into that part. So Shannon over here, I'm going to put you up here. Shannon says, I've been writing the to the best of my knowledge statement when I signed my tax documents for decades, with most of it being guesswork on all my self-employed adventures, as it is every month of my life. Woo! I'm grateful for this information. Yay! To move through my big B's budget and bookkeeping so that I might actually experience some forward momentum. Shannon, give me a message and we will figure something out for you. I would love for you to get a handle on this, because what you create and what you do, I think, can be very lucrative. Well, I know it's lucrative, so I want to make sure that it's lucrative and profitable, right? So lucrative means I can bring in a lot of money. Profitable means I'm not then just spending it all right? So that's good. And also you can account for taxes, by the way, with budgeting. It's much easier to account for taxes because then you know what your profit is. With bookkeeping, pardon me. With bookkeeping, it's so much easier to account for your taxes because then you know your real profit. And in economic systems where you are only getting taxed on taxable income after expenses, then you can more accurately set aside the money that you need to set aside for your taxes because you have a better idea of what's actually profit versus what's revenue. So that's a really cool thing. I really want you to keep me posted on that, Shannon, because absolutely incredible work that you do. And your photography is amazing as well. Tegan is saying, here is something I struggle with. What if you have a dual income household? How do you differentiate your shared expenses and shared income? Okay. This is a little bit beyond personal budgeting. I'm going to say some things, and I just want you to gird your loins. Okay. If you cannot have an honest money conversation with your partner, that is not good. Okay? I know you can, Tegan, but I think this is one of the biggest things that people do not talk about before they become partners in life and partners in love, partners in crime, if you will. And what you've got to do if you have a dual income household is you have to sit down with the other person who has the income, and you have to make decisions together on every line item. Who is going to be responsible for what? Who is going to be responsible for what? What is our shared value around money? Again, this is a little beyond the beginning budgeting. You might decide we don't want to combine expenses. I want to have my personal accounts. You want to have your personal accounts. Maybe we have a shared account for things like travel and incidentals or whatever. You might do that. Or you might be with a partner that you are like, nope, it all goes in one pot. We share everything. And one person's portion is this percentage, and then another person's portion is this percentage. If you have, I'm a little bit, how do you differentiate your shared expenses and shared income? I need you to give me another comment about, because I think I'm knowing smelling what you're stepping in here, but I'm assuming you mean like he has income from his business. So because I know Tegan's husband has a business, right? So Tegan, your husband's business should be completely separate. Your business should be completely separate. And then you have whatever you're going to do in terms of your personal finances, whether you choose to both have personal bank accounts or a shared bank account. But you're going to have like 3 situations going on. You're going to have the one business, the other business, and then the personal. If you have a dual income household, you got to be talking every week about money. Every week at your family meeting, which, by the way, if you don't have a family meeting or a partner meeting, then you need to have that every week. What do we need to spend money on? Who's going to pay for it? How are we going to pay for it? Tegan, you're saying the businesses are separate. Great. Perfect. I figured they were, but just wanted to say that for all the listeners out there. It's the personal expenses that are shared. Great. So when was the last time you had a conversation with husband about, I just happen to know Tegan is married, so that's why I feel comfortable saying husband, we're about to implement the family meeting. Good. So one of those first conversations is going to be like, great, how are we going to pay for our stuff? And this might bring up some things. So, okay, I'm going to just be straight with you here again. Gird thou loins. Many, many, many wonderful, wonderful, wonderful men don't have this problem. So I just want to put it out there. Hashtag not all men, right? But in kind of the the historical culture of money, you got to remember that women couldn't even have, in the United States, women couldn't even have credit cards until like the 70s, unless they were in their husband's name. So there's some patriarchal, misogynistic money stuff going on. And those are generational pieces of information to people who are enculturated in United States culture, at least, and in some other cultures as well, that men should be the breadwinners, that men should make the most money, and that they are in charge of taking care and making the money. This oftentimes just happens to be true because, then we're talking about wage gap and all that, but that's not this live. The point is this: even when a person who is a spouse does not, they say they don't believe that, we have to honor that there's going to be that little weird cultural thing inside of them that really tells them, yeah, they should be in charge of that. Even if they don't want to be, even if they're like totally egalitarian and they're like, let's share everything. You got to kind of honor that culturally, this is still a thing in the world. So just be like, have a conversation about, what does it feel like that I make more money than you? And I think you can have that regardless of the type of relationship you're in. Like, what do we feel about one person making more money than another person? When we both own businesses, how are we going to address the personal expenses when the other person's businesses are lean? What kind of partnership are we going to have around money? Are we going to do what's mine is mine, what's yours is mine? Are we going to do ours is ours? Because if these are relationship questions, because ultimately that's going to go into, which I am not qualified to talk about, but it's one of those things that you have to have a hard conversation with someone that you love and you care about some expectations that they maybe have around money that maybe you didn't realize that they had around money, and their money mindset and your money mindset kind of coming together. Be honest. So what if you have a dual income? The data around that is you write everything down, right? You write all of the expenses down, whether it's whatever your family is, it has a line item, and then all of the income that comes in. And then you go line by line and you say, how are we going to break this up? Who's going to pay for, essentially whose income is going to pay for this? Which money? My husband and I personally, we decided that all of our income goes into a shared account. And we both bear the burden, and we talk about who's going to pay for what. Because I own a business, I can do things like dividends and bonuses where maybe he can't, right? Because he's an employee. And then we both have our like fun money stuff, right? Okay. Any other questions? Was that helpful, Tegan? I hope so. Got to have those hard talks. Got to have those hard talks. Okay. Any other questions today about budgeting, beginning budgeting? Anything you get hung up on that just makes you feel like, why am I even bothering doing this? This is hard. How can I help you out today? I think, here's something practical. You have to plan for this in your calendar. This doesn't just magically happen. It's not something that you cannot plan to take care of. So if you're interested in doing this, go ahead and put some time on your calendar over the next couple months, a little bit every week, maybe half an hour to an hour every week. Once you are getting familiar, I like to do it every Friday. Like I review my books every Friday for a little bit, just touch base, all of that. So yeah, you have to plan to look at it. And if you are a business owner, which I'm assuming you are, if you're listening here, then that's one of your hats that you wear. You wear the CFO hat, the Chief Financial Officer hat. So even if you're not doing the bookkeeping or the accounting necessarily, you're making the decisions and you're making the choices around where the money comes and where the money goes. And so like kind of to the point of what Shannon was saying about, she did make a decision. Her decision was to kind of like be like, well, it's about this. Right? So now she gets to make different decisions and she can say, well, I want to make more intentional decisions or more specific decisions. Yeah. Still the CFO. Okay. Doesn't look like any questions are popping up right now. and I've had a great, fantastic time with you. If you know someone who this would be helpful for, they don't need to be in a voice-related business. We talked very generally today about beginning budgeting. If you know someone who needs to hear a little support around money and knowing that they don't need to be shame, Tegan says, what if income is not fixed? Self-employed income like performing gigs. Okay, so Tegan, because you're in SECO, the Tuesday training, I'm not gonna answer that question here just because the Tuesday training last week is all on that. It's how do you budget and how do you determine your salary when you don't have a fixed income. So watch the Tuesday training and then ask me. Because that's like a whole other live just in and of itself. And I love that you have all the questions and I want to answer them. Okay. Also the negotiate the gig and the how to run, by the way, Tegan, and the how to run your voice biz accelerator, go back and watch that negotiate the gig one as well. But of course, and then DM me in the group and we will do all of that. There's no bad questions. I just know it's way deeper. Even though I was like, hey, ask me questions. And now I'm like, I'm not going to answer your question. I will say this. You've got to make some guesses. And this is where looking at your past stuff, Tegan, is really, really helpful. And where you know you're going to get gigs, right? So if you can generally say, hey, I know I generally have gigs in December because of the holidays. I'll probably make about this much, and then you just got to commit to that. Some people like to underestimate. You also do you kind of have your boom or bust. You could have a savings account that's called like a boom or bust account. Anyone, where when you're doing really, really well and you make more money than your budget requires, you take all that extra money and put it in that savings account for months that you are not going to make extra money over your budget. So that's kind of the cool thing about the non-fixed income, is that you get to watch that cash flow even more. And that's what's helpful about having a budget, because if generally I have about a $4,500 budget in total, then if you make $6,000 one month, you have $1,500 to put in a savings account for maybe, let's say, summer, when you know that you're only going to bring in $3,000 a month because it's summer and people cancel their lessons and stuff like that. And you can just pull it right out, that $1,500, you can just pull right out of your boom and bust account and put it into your current budget. That's the gold of it. The gold. If you know your total budget, then you know when you're under it and you know when you're over it, which is fantastic. Okay, friends, I hope you have a fantastic day and a fantastic week. It's rainy and gorgeous here. And again, keep dropping your comments. Facebook was being a little weird last time, and I didn't get notifications. So go ahead, leave messages. One of my team will answer you. If you need to message, go ahead and drop your comments, and we'll talk about this more in the Speakeasy Cooperative. All right. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye.